Hello, welcome back. My name is Andy. I'm a philosophy lecturer, and today we want to talk about a meaningful structure of life. In the past few episodes, we have been talking about work and about what meaningful work is and how our work affects, other people in society. But another important aspect that Aristotle does not talk about is how our life changes over time. And when I look back at my life, it has these clear stages. I was a child, and then I was in school, and then I was at university, and then I finished university, I was working, then I married, I had children, and now I'm almost at the end of my professional career. I'm 60. At some point I will be retiring, and then I'm an old man. And when you look back at your life, I don't know if everybody's life is structured so clearly, but mine was, because each one of these stages also happened in a different country. I was a child in Greece, I was a student in Germany, and I raised my children in Hong Kong. So I was a family man in Hong Kong. And when I retire, I will probably go back to Greece. And so this is how, in retrospect, my life has been structured. And I found a very similar concept, which I found very interesting, in Hindu tradition. In India, Hinduism has a very similar idea, and I want to read you something about it. It's called ashrama, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, and it says that it's a system of stages of life discussed in Hindu text of the ancient and medieval eras. And the four ashramas, the four stages of life, are the student, the householder, the forest dweller, and the renunciation stage. Now, this sound a little, like what they are. They sound like the stages of life, perhaps in ancient India. And today we would perhaps not call it a forest dweller stage. But otherwise, this makes a lot of sense to me. And each one of these stages is supposed to have its own goals and its own understanding of life. And this is certainly something that we must consider when we plan our lives, when we also live our lives. While we live our lives, we should see what the goal of a particular stage is. And then, as Aristotle says, this matches very well with Aristotle, because as Aristotle says, we're supposed to fulfill the end, the purpose of our life. But the purposes change throughout life. The purpose of a householder with children is not the same as the purpose of a student in school. And so when we think about how we develop our lives and how we strive for particular goals throughout our lives, these goals change. And being aware of the changes saves us from pursuing the wrong things at the wrong time. I think we all have heard stories like, somebody very old who is, let's say, 80 and rich, and then they marry for the 5th time somebody who is very young. And you feel that somehow this is wrong. It's not morally wrong. Good luck to them if this works out. But you feel that somehow it is not what life is supposed to be. When you are 80, you're not supposed to marry a 25-year-old and pretend that you are back being 25. It somehow seems to negate this idea that there is a progression in life, and this progression is natural, and it's a good progression, because this is what life is. And what we also will talk about later, when ancient Roman philosopher Seneca says that we have to prepare for the end of life, this is also an important point. And built into this concept, this Indian concept of the stages of life, is also the idea of the end of life. So you have a stage where the life starts, where you are a student and you learn what you need for your life. Then you have the productive working stage. And then you have the stage where you start to say goodbye to these things that are worldly things, that is just a collection of money and a bigger house and a family and children and wives and husbands and all these things. And then you start to use your accumulated knowledge and wisdom, what Aristotle called phronesis. You use this in order to improve the lives of others, to give this wisdom to your children or to give the wisdom to others. So you retreat more into the role of an advisor for others. And then at the end of that, again, you completely retreat into nothingness, into retreat, into being away from the world, into retirement, where in the end, the natural end of life catches up with you. And the wisdom of this is that when death comes, it is a natural progression of life. It is not the sudden cutting off of a life that is still full of promise, but it is what happens with everything in nature that has a natural cycle. When the leaves fall from the trees in autumn, then the tree is not just in bloom and then suddenly, in autumn everything falls down. It's a natural cycle from spring in which the leaves come out to autumn when they fall down and winter where they are then, covered in snow and gone and eaten by microorganisms and other things in order to recycle them. And the same thing happens to the human body. And so I think that is an important thing to realize, that one's life follows these same cycles. And there is little value in, being 70, 60, 70, 80, and then painting your hair, pink or blue. It is an expression of one's individuality, and as such it is valuable. But if it is an attempt to stay young, then I think that this is something that is unnatural and that works against these natural cycles. And I don't think that it actually contributes to the happiness of somebody who is trying to get back this youth that is now gone, because also they are missing now a stage of life that would be valuable in itself. They're not having this. By extending your productive stage of life, your working stage or your family stage, as much as you can, you're missing on the stage of advising others, for example, which would benefit society. And by missing the last stage, you miss the preparation for your death, which then seems like a tragedy while it should look like a natural progression. So I think this is a very interesting concept to keep in mind. So I hope that you found this as interesting as I did, and that you think about your own life, about the stages in your life, the student stage, the working, the family stage, the slow retirement, advising others stage, and then finally the retreat stage in which we give up material possessions, we give up everything, and we prepare to go to the next stage of whatever comes, which nobody knows. Thank you, and see you again next time. If you are here for the first time and you could not make much sense of this discussion of Aristotle, then feel free to watch this video here, which explains Aristotle's ideas about life. And we will talk again next time. Thank you and goodbye.